Hello everybody, it's me again, and as you can tell by all the tap behind me, we're well into December, and that means it's time to announce the winner of the Where's Huck contest. Yes, that's right. But before we do that, we have some other business we need to take care of first. So for those who are playing along at home, here are all the spots in the Series 3 of Farthing Wood reviews that Huck popped up in, just so you know exactly where to find him. I like to think that I put him in places that at least gave it a decent challenge for him to be found. Unless you're my mum, in which case you mistake my channel icon for where Huck is, so she thought that was where he was in every episode. Sorry mum, that's not quite the case. But anyway, that was where he was in every single one of the episodes, so if you got all of those right and you sent me in a form, you're still in the game. Now, the other question of course was my new sign-on and sign-off phrase, which is, "Alright me darlings, and I've had enough of this, I'm going on the other side to have a bath." The question in the actual contest was, where am I actually referencing those from? Now, there were actually two answers to that, but everyone gave me the initial answer, which was the most obvious, in that I'm referencing the character of Tom, Dick and Harry from the TV show Dick and Dom and the Bungalow. And if you don't remember that, or you don't know who that is, here's a clip of him.
Alright, me darling! Alright, me darling!
Very nicely, darling!
I've had enough of this, I'm going on the other side to have a bath.
Dead ringer, right? No, I didn't think so. But that was the initial answer, and everyone got that right who sent in the form. The other answer you could have had was I was actually kind of referencing the actual song in which Tom, Dick and Harry himself was referencing. Yes, for those of you who don't know, the phrase "Alright me darlings" is a Cockney respin of the song "Hello my darlings," and the final phrase where he said, "I've had enough of this, I'm going on the other side to have a bath," is actually playing the final part from that song. And if you didn't know that, here's that actual song.
When you're feeling sad and blue and the job's too much for you, this is what you gotta do. Sing "Hello my darling."
I've had enough of this, I'm going on the other side to have a bath.
Unsurprisingly, nobody got that, but people got the Dick and Dom reference, so that's still a point for everyone who got that one right. And of course, the final bonus question, which got you 5 extra points, was how many words are there in total for the third series of Farthing Wood reviews? And the answer to that is, and brace yourself on this one, 31,884. Some people might be thinking, how the hell did you write all of that? Whereas the friends of mine who are medical degree students are thinking, well, that's a really light write-out, isn't it? But yeah, those were the answers, and I've compiled and reviewed every single one of the forms that were sent in to me, all 3 of them, and I've figured out who the winner is of the contest. But first, let's do our Q&A. Oh. I do so love to string you along. So yes, I gave you all the option to send me in questions, and I am now going to answer them live on camera. Well, not quite live, but on camera. And then after that is finished, we will be announcing the winner of Where's Huck? Which means you all have to watch this in order to get to that. Ha 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 ha! So firstly, I have 5 questions from my old friend Luke P, and if you don't know who that is, that's the guy who did the Farthing Wood crossover with me earlier this year, and so I'll be answering those questions first. Question number 1. How did you choose your reviewer name? This is actually a question I've actually kind of been hoping to be asked for a long time now, because many people who I know who are good friends of mine have always said that they felt that even though they like my videos, I've got a terrible name because it's not self-descriptive enough and it just seems a bit too generic, and if I ever sent out an email that they're just going to think it's spam. While the latter half of those little opinions has definitely come true recently, I like to think HeadphonesUK is quite unique. You're definitely not going to get me confused for anybody else. Unless a headphones company comes along called HeadphonesUK, which, as far as I'm aware, there are quite a few of those. But even so, I don't think my fans are going to confuse me with them. But The reason I came up with the name is because way back when I first made my YouTube channel, long before I even considered making videos, I just wanted to be part of the actual community of YouTube. So that meant basically giving a star rating, because yeah, that was back in the day in 2008 before there were thumbs up and thumbs down, adding comments, making favourite playlists, and also getting YouTube friends. And yeah, thumbs up if you remember that old relic of the internet.
They can hide their power levels. Those readings are useless.
You mean like YouTube friends?
But I was constantly trying to think, what could I call myself? Because of course back in those days you didn't make a channel that just had your actual name on it. I mean, back in those days the level of anonymity on the internet was so massive, it was practically its own secret service. So I wanted to come up with a name that felt descriptive of what I'm like when I'm on the computer. And back in those days I'd always wear headphones because I never wanted to have what I was watching or listening to blaring out around the house from the computer speakers. So I would always wear headphones, and I came from the UK, so I thought, HeadphonesUK. I have kind of considered changing the name to try and give myself more of a descriptive name, but I think we've gotten to the point now where I'm so far into the game and so many people already know who I am that I can't really do that now. Plus, in terms of reviewer names, while it's a little bit vague and not very self-descriptive, it's nowhere near as vague as Linkara and Spoonie. I don't really know where they got those names from. I'm sure there's an explanation of it somewhere, but those are even less self-descriptive than what I do, because that doesn't even relate to reviewing comics or anime and B-movies. Don't get me wrong, I love them as reviewers, but I always thought it was a bit of a weird name. But either way, that's how I came up with my reviewer name. Question number 2. Who is your favourite character in Farthing Wood? This one's a tricky one because there's so many characters it's difficult to figure out which one is my favourite, but I think I'd probably still go with Whistler. I've said it before, but he reminds me a lot of John Pertwee, particularly when he used to play Doctor Who, and he's probably my favourite of all the classic Doctors, and also one of my all-time favourite actors, so I think I'd go for Whistler. But I have to be honest, the way he kind of slowly devolved into a lazy jerk, as when we got to Series 3 he wasn't quite as gentlemanly and kind as he was in Series 1, kind of weakened the character for me, but I still enjoyed watching him. In terms of other characters, I'm a big fan of Scarface because it's always fun to just watch him go on rants, and for me it was a lot of fun dubbing over Al Pacino's dialogue onto him. But yeah, I like Scarface, I like Al. I always think it's nice to have kind of those characters who is intelligent more so than the other characters and clearly knows it, kind of like a Sherlock sort of character. And of course you've got the characters like Fox, Vixen, Bold and all those, but yeah, those are basically some of my favourite characters in Farthing Wood. What anime have you seen off the top of your head? If I answered this question to the fullest degree I possibly could, it would take me probably forever, because I am a frequent member and attendee of the on-campus anime society here at the Sussex University. I haven't gone recently in quite a while, but at the same time that means I've watched so many different anime, it's insane. But in terms of anime I've seen off the top of my head, the first one I ever saw was Monster Rancher on BBC, because that actually was an anime they used to show during sort of like the block of kids shows. So Monster Rancher was the first one I watched because they had that as the competitor to ITV's Pokemon and Digimon, which was then the next two anime I ever saw. I didn't really get into anime back then, I just considered it as a different sort of cartoon, and I didn't really even know what anime was until much later in my life. But in terms of much later in my life, I have gotten into anime a little bit more. My all-time favourite is the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure anime, because I just think it's wonderfully insane. It's just a really big fun to watch. In terms of others, I'm a big fan of Dragon Ball Z, but that's mostly down to the amazing Dragon Ball Z abridged series on YouTube, and that was actually the way I was introduced to Dragon Ball, which is probably the most famous anime of all time, alongside the Superman v Goku death battle video. So after that I got rather interested in Dragon Ball, and I started watching a few of the actual Funimation dubbed episodes later on, but when you're introduced through a parody of it, you can't really watch the original and take it seriously anymore. But I still enjoy it, and I still keep watching the Dragon Ball Z abridged series all the time. And some of my other favourite animes are Space Dandy, and I love Death Parade as well. So off the top of my head, those are the few anime I know that I've seen. Question number 4. What series would have you reviewed if it wasn't Farthing Wood? That's honestly a really difficult question for me to answer, because I really can't think of any series besides Farthing Wood, because rediscovering Farthing Wood was what made me into a reviewer. Basically, what I'm describing is that here on the University of Sussex campus, we're surrounded by a national park known as Stamner Park, and I still, to this day, go on walks around Stamner Park as, you know, a bit of exercise, a way to kind of clear the mind and de-stress after a lot of work. At least I used to, until I've got some unfortunate muscle deteriorating illness in my feet, but that's another story for another day. But there's this kind of bench made out of a log that's quite a few distance away from the university. It's even actually past the small village of Stamner. But this bench I happened to come across when I was going on one of my treks, and it's kind of like a big right angle carved out of the log, but along the actual edge of it are a load of little wood carvings of woodland creatures. So there's a weasel on there, there's a badger on there, there's a rabbit and some butterflies. And in seeing that, I was reminded of the series of Farthing Wood. I hadn't thought about the series in years, and yet seeing that reminded me of it. And then after I'd gone for my walk later that night, I went on to the Farthing Wood wiki. Big thanks to that, by the way. They've been a big help in helping me make my videos. They don't know it, but they have definitely been a big help. But I went on there and I reread everything that I could find out about Farthing Wood again, because, like I said, I grew up watching the series, but once it stopped being shown, I kind of forgot about it. But in watching and reading those old, old excerpts and eventually rewatching the entire series again, I was reminded about how amazing the series was. I mean, it's ridiculous and a little bit goofy and occasionally overly dark and ridiculous, but at the same time, it is a fantastic story. And when I rewatched it, I was amazed about how so many little people didn't remember Farthing Wood. I used to go to my friends and say, "Do you remember that show Farthing Wood?" And they'd always go, "What?" And I was so annoyed that not many people knew about this series' existence. So I made the Farthing Wood Review series as a way of not only allowing people to be rekindled with this great series that they probably grew up watching like myself, but also to basically introduce people who hadn't heard of the series before to this great show. And I like to think that I've done that. To be fair, a lot of the people who like my videos are those who grew up watching Farthing Wood, but I think there are a few people who didn't know what it was to begin with and have watched my videos. So if I've managed to achieve that, then what this series set out to do has definitely done that. But in terms of another series, it's difficult to say, but what I probably would have done is, if I'd been introduced or reintroduced to a series that I happen to like again, I probably would have done that, because also that same year I found out about a bit of technology in the university that allowed me to transfer data from old VHS tapes and turn them into digital video. And I was doing that with a load of old tapes I had that I used to record Dick and Dom episodes on. So if I hadn't have done Farthing Wood, I probably would have done that series, but I probably wouldn't have done big series episodic overviews like I would for Farthing Wood, because one, I don't have every episode, and two, there's like 280 episodes of that series, so that would have been impossible to do. But yeah, it probably would have been that if not for Farthing Wood. Question number 5. What's your overall opinion about TV shows for kids these days becoming more light-hearted? I don't really have an opinion, to be honest. I haven't watched any kid shows that are new for a long time. I mean, occasionally when I'm around my parents' house and I get a little bit bored, I might flick on CBBC to see what's on. And I'm happy to see that the series Horrible Histories is still being shown, which was probably the last CBBC show I really got into before I stopped watching it. And that's actually one of my favourite TV shows of all time. And that's definitely not light-hearted. They do not shy away from some of the more gory details of history. Granted, there are some things they can't talk about, like any of the sexual stuff in there, but besides that, they are completely unabridged and uncensored, so there is still a lot of dark elements in TV shows these days. And it's not just with CBBC, like with international shows, like if you think about things like Ben 10, and of course you've got Beware the Batman, which is still a really, really dark series. There are still dark elements in TV shows these days, and you just have to look for them. But yeah, compared to how things were allowed to be just sort of let go in the 90s and 80s, it has gotten a little bit more over-censored. I'm not really objecting to it. I mean, to be fair, there are some points where censors do go a bit too far. But yeah, I do consider that sometimes censorship does go a bit too far, but it is there for a reason. But yeah, it would be nice to see some shows that are a bit like Farthing Wood again. Maybe not quite as gory as Farthing Wood, because as much as I love the series, I can't deny that there are some points where it went a bit too far. I mean, that bit where in the second series where a deer gets shot and blood streams out of its head, I mean, that was insane. That looked like a scene from like an animated horror movie, for crying out loud. It would be nice to have some Farthing Wood style darkness in TV again. But at the same time, the reason why that stuff doesn't exist anymore is still quite a good reason. So those were the questions from Luke. I'm now going to move on to the other questions I received from a fan of mine called Robin. So here are your questions answered, Robin. What are you going to do in the future? Obviously, I've got some things planned, naturally. I've got some reviews on the way that have already been written, and I'm also currently working on a new review, which you will see a sneak preview of at the end of this video. So there will be some videos to come. It is a bit difficult to think because now I don't have this ongoing series that I constantly need to come back to. But I think that might be for the best, really. I mean, I had to spend all my summers working on these, and it meant that I couldn't get an actual job, which, to be fair, I probably should be doing now that I'm 21 years old. I will still keep working on these reviews as much as I can, and I don't think there's going to be a point where I'm going to want to quit this, because I love doing this so much. It's just so much fun to do something that I have complete creative control over, which anyone who's in the media industry nowadays knows that you have so many other people basically poking at you to do what they want you to do, that you don't really have creative freedom unless you do everything yourself, which besides reviews like this or really small projects is nearly impossible, because not only do you need the money to do that, but you also need the skill and the time, which all three of those things are almost non-existent to find nowadays. So I will keep doing these. I've got plenty of stuff planned, and I don't think I'll be doing another ongoing series like Farthing Wood, because that was just really convenient, because there were only 3 series and 12 episodes per series. If I find something that would be worth doing again, I might do that. I definitely won't be doing that for Noah's Island, because I didn't have as much of a relation and connection with that as I did for Farthing Wood. If I ever do Noah's Island, it will just be a one video thing. But I definitely will have more videos coming up in the future. Have you ever achieved anything besides last year's Kickstarter? I'm not entirely sure what this question means, but if you mean if I achieved any other projects besides this series and that Kickstarter, which, by the way, for those who don't know, that Kickstarter was funded completely and 100% successfully, and the movie we were planning to make was eventually made. But in terms of other projects, of course, I've done my university degree. I got a BA in media practice, a high 2-1. Yay me. It was kind of nice, because everyone that year got either 2-1s or firsts overall, which was a great thing to see. In terms of other projects, I do always have things going on at the side. I have my own DeviantArt page, which I don't contribute to very often, but anytime I have kind of like an idea of a bit of artwork that I want to make, I'll contribute to that. I've just set up my new WordPress account, which you can click on. There's a link to it on my little channel banner on the front page of my YouTube channel. So I normally use that when I have any text-based reviews that I haven't got time to do a video on there, so you can go and check that out. And I'm currently working on some other new projects, and also looking for some jobs that will fit my skill requirements. So yeah, I guess I'd say that I have achieved quite a bit in my 21 years, apart from that Kickstarter. I hope that's what you were looking for in an answer, but that's the best way I could interpret it, so I hope that's what you were looking for, Robin. But that brings the Q&A to its merciful conclusion, and now we're here for the thing that you all showed up to see in the first place, the winner of the Where's Huck contest. So, who was the winner of the illustrious prize draw that I said that I would give out? Well, let's see. Martha Smith from Essex. Congratulations, you got the closest in the number draw by guessing the closest to the 31,000 words or whatever. So you have won Where's Huck 2016. Congratulations, you have won all those lovely prizes, and they will be sent to you within a few days. You get yourself a little early Christmas present. Assuming they get there before Christmas, I don't know. I hope they do, that would be lovely. But commiserations to the other people who participated and didn't win. You all did very, very, very well, and it was very close, I assure you. But don't forget, you don't go empty-handed. You will get a handwritten letter by me saying how well you did, and also a signed one of these, so you can, I don't know, hang that up on your wall or something. But I want to make sure that everyone who participated got something out of this. So thank you very, very much for everybody who participated in the contest, and thank you every single one of you for supporting the Farthing Wood reviews for the 3 years that I've been doing this. And as promised, I will now give you a sneak peek of the next review. So those of you who didn't win, you kind of get a little something extra as well. So keep an eye out in the next few weeks, because this is what I will be doing next. But yeah, he makes up his snowman with snow, coal and a scarf, though what I always took note of is that he makes his snowman's nose with a satsuma, not a carrot. An interesting break from tradition, I suppose, but I guess it works. I mean, either one's better than this.
Right, no!
I think you can tell from that what it's going to be very, very well. But either way, that is being worked on, so keep an eye out for that. That will be out very, very soon. But that is it from me, and I'd like to thank you, every single one of us here at Headphones UK, which is pretty much just me and him. And I just want to say, I've had enough of this. I'm going on the other side to have a bath. Bye!